Thank you for staying with us. On Plus TV Africa in Kano State yesterday, a federal high court nullified the primaries that produced the People's Democratic Party's gubernatorial candidate, Mr. Yusuf. It is 3 days to the elections, and we know the question is what happens now? To look at this story, we have with us Tony Shaw, public affairs analyst. He's been here with us the whole time. Tony, it's good to have you join us again.
Oh, thank you so much.
Now, barely, Tony, it's pretty much quite difficult to sum up this development. Having a court order which nullifies the PDP party's candidate to participate in this election, and the reason for this nullification is the fact that one of the party's candidates said, well, I wasn't given a fair opportunity to partake in the primary that led to the emergence of the PDP party candidates, that's Abba Kabir Yusuf.
Well, let me start with this. The political parties should learn something, like there should be a level playing ground for all the candidates. His argument in court was that, okay, having obtained nomination form, went into primary, maybe by mistake or no, they actually removed that guy's name from the ballot. Then he pursued the case to the court. So now, the possible effect this could have coming Saturday, that would be what we call voting appetite. As we speak in Kano, we have some PDP members trooping to APC as we speak. I saw a video.
Yeah, there was a mass defection.
I saw a video on Twitter this afternoon when Governor Ganduje was receiving some Kwankwasia movement just this afternoon. So that tells you more that even before Saturday, technically we might know the winner before the Saturday election.
But if the court has said, well, the primaries that saw the emergence of Abba Kabir Yusuf has been nullified, then it means they cannot field any candidates unless they conduct another primary that would lead to a fair election.
But another primary has been scheduled for Thursday. But let me tell you the financial implication and the consequences.
Do you necessarily think it's going to hold on Thursday?
Oh, well, that's still based on probability. But let's consider a case where the primary eventually hold.
Okay.
They will have to mobilize resources. And often the time, PDP always use delegate primary, not that of APC where they use direct primary. And all these delegates, they need to induce them. We all know what happened in Osun. Last year, I was part of Osun election, either directly or indirectly. We saw what happened between Dr. Akiogunbi of PDP and the Adeleke, Senator Ademola Adeleke. So they need to mobilize funds. After that, they are still going into primary. And of course, the issue of vote buying is still there. Having mobilized your party men or women to vote for you during the primary, you are still going to the election proper. So, to me, it's a straight win, sorry.
But do you think the party really understands the rudiments of the game when it comes to how these primaries are supposed to be conducted? Yes, we've seen that play out in the APC. We see it's playing in the PDP as well.
And
don't they have an understanding of what the Electoral Act says, what the Constitution says, what the party Constitution says? Because we have different sections of these documents clearly stating out how these primaries should be conducted.
Rules or no rules, all these political parties, they have the Electoral Act and the guidelines. But the issue of favorism, party interest, one quarter's interest has to be fulfilled. That is where they all are having this problem. Take, for instance, what happened in Ogun State. By now, we should be facing similar issues between the Buruji Kashamu and then the Ladi of the Adebuti. Buruji actually won his own case through the courts. So, back to your question, all these political parties, they have the electoral guidelines given to them by the INEC. But we can take Nigeria from Nigeria. We can take a Nigerian from Nigeria, but we cannot take that.
But this timing, it's just a little too short, wouldn't you think? We've seen parties candidates decide to opt out of an election, barely a few days to elections, and we see a whole lot of developments play. Don't they understand the sense of timing and now that affects The plans have already been made.
I smell what we call a political, strategical, such that you tend to like spy on your opponent. I could see some hand of APC in that. Why
now we're going to blame the APC for
no, I'm not blaming them. I'm actually
oversight
I'm actually
of the
going
PDP.
somewhere. I'm actually see. It's all politics. Even back then when we were in school, we tried to spy on other opponents. Then we tried to see what could happen. Probably if we could like cause some kind of confusion in the other camp, then we came from that. Away from that. Why yesterday? I'm not blaming APC or anything. Why just yesterday? I mean, this primary election was conducted probably October last year. That's even correct. Why just yesterday? This case has been in court for like months now.
But of course, that could be blamed on the judicial processes in this country and the drag of cases. Normally, whether they be criminal or political, because we always have these adjournments or, you know, hearings that are shifted from this month to that month. I mean, really, can you blame that on the party? It should be the courts.
Well, as much as all of us want to blame our judicial process, our court cases, as going to the fact that whenever we have cases in court, the process is very, very slow. Away from that, we are talking about two candidates vying for one particular position to represent a particular party. See, anything that has to do with politics, political parties, a politician in Nigeria, the process will be so slow. Like I heard when a previous speaker talked about the process where we used to actually arrange these the embattled CJN on Ogen. Then if that process should be followed in such that how we handle all
the speed
at which we handle all of that course proceeding as well, Nigeria will be better by now. I will speak directly on the consequential loss of the PDP in this coming Saturday. One, we have two extremes in Kano politics. If you are familiar with Kano politics very well, before the emergence of Kakwasi, I told you, forget about the Ganduje. Buhari is like a movement in Kano. Buhari has never lost Kano from 2003, and if he has never lost, it would definitely be a small margin. But
this time, it's not a Buhari that is running, it's another person running against a Ganduje.
I know, but let me tell you something. The fact that Buhari is in APC, and Ganduje is also coming from APC. As we speak, the issue of Gandola, I'm telling you, is not a case to be considered in Kano politics as we speak today. So, the Buhari populism, these guys are still riding on it in Kano.
All right. Well, we'll come back to talk more on this populism. I mean, this is something that also happened in America with Donald Trump, and something that also happened in France with what's his name now? Emmanuel Macron. So populism is the order of the day. But we need to take a short break and bring you a track of lawyers talking about this issue that transpired in courts between the two PDP candidates. Let's listen.
They were saying that the primary was not conducted. The court, in its own wisdom, was saying that there should be another primaries. Court will order another primaries to be conducted within 14 days. We will look at it and do the needful.
Purported the nomination of Abba Yusuf has been invalidated by the court because there was no primary election.
Has been?
Invalidated, it's been nullified.
Okay.
So as it appears now, the PDP has to put its hands together and ensure that they have another candidate between now and Saturday.
So now we have to ensure that there is another candidate being presented between now and Saturday. But do you really think that, despite this nullification, the party will be coaxed to have a free, fair, valid, fresh primary conducted?
Well, I think they should learn from that.
Beyond the sentiments that you already alluded to.
Let me say directly, like, they should learn from their previous mistakes. That you can imagine having to conduct another primaries just a few days to an election is actually a burden on their parts. Because Saturday election is just too close. Do you get? In politics, we consider what we call time lag. Time, interest, then the political calculations. So where you have to calculate, okay, from the words, from the polling unit to the word to the local government and the views of that. So now, The party will learn from that, but could there be any?
But the ripple effect,
difference?
some would say, is that then the party might not necessarily be going to contest in this election come Saturday with one voice, and that would affect how they might be flawed, so to speak.
As we speak, APC, they are recruiting from the PDP already. And I tell people, see, our political system, our parties, political parties in Nigeria should be about ideology. In the US, in the UK, you cannot be a conservative, then you go to a Labour Party. Have you ever seen a Republican going to Democrat in the US? As we speak today, immediately after that court ruling, we have a mass exodus of PDP members decamping to APC.
Might those be those who are aggrieved and those who are maybe sympathizers of this Alagwa guy, rather the man that
Abba.
took, yes, Abba that took his opponent to court? Could those be his sympathizers saying, well, there might not be hope, looking at the time frame that we have on our hands? Are we seeing a reverse case playing out here in Kano?
Let me tell you something. In politics of Nigeria, as we speak today, people consider their interest first before any other person's interest. If I'm defecting just few days to election, what you said is just an assumption. We cannot establish it. See, let me tell you, interests come first whenever we are talking about.
So what is the interest of these people, these mass defectors, if they not be sympathizers of the man who they think has been robbed of the opportunity to run?
They might have done their calculations. I mean, sometimes even when we try to run away from reality, we all know. They might have done their calculation and they want to retain their access to government, if they do have.
What do you think will happen next if the PDP cannot conduct a fresh, valid primary ahead of Saturday?
It has to be between APC and all these, sorry to say, all these mushroom parties.
And how do you think that would also affect the security situation in Kano?
Of course, we have two prominent political parties in Nigeria. And of course, whenever we have any election, we know how they deploy their arsenals, their party agents and the likes. So when we have one major political party, say APC, now contesting against the likes of
elements
ADP.
sometimes take their sentiment a little too sentimental and are ready to go all the way. So how do you see the security play out there?
Well, to me, there won't be a lot of confusion or commotion in Kano coming Saturday. Because it's going to be a straight win.
No, Thursday, I beg your pardon.
Okay, Thursday, you are talking about their primary.
Yes, their primary.
Well, I hope they get it right. I hope they get it right. Because what happened at the court yesterday is not really good for PDP in Kano State. I hope they get it right. But even if they do, let's try and consider their chances. Already, before now, the chance is just like, let me say, 45 on 55. That's the fact. So that still takes us back to the issue of Buhari in Kano. I've been to Kano. I know how those guys respect President Muhammadu Buhari. I know how some people see him as a teen god. It's like a movement.
But what do you also expect, sorry, what do you expect from our judiciary now? Understanding how timings affect the activities of INEC. We know candidates opting out or primaries being termed valid or not valid affects how they perform or how it disrupts INEC's activities and plan of action. So now, what do you expect of the judiciary when it comes to attending to these petitions?
Well,
having a sense of understanding that timing is of essence and you can't wait necessarily till 5, 4, 3 days to an election.
You see what happened in Kano is just like a setback to our electoral processes. We need to wake up to that fact. Our honest, for like 2, 3 months, we've been having a case in court. Then just yesterday, you guys concluded the court cases, and then you ruled the judgment. That is setback. So, future, probably tomorrow when we have all these similar cases again, the courts should, as a matter of fact, conclude all all the cases that has to do with all these irregularities during the party primaries, probably there should be a time frame. A month after the primary election, all the court cases should be what? Should be concluded.
Talking about time and a sense of urgency, let's look at the constitution of the party, the Electoral Act, and all of the things that have come to play in this case. In fact, the first thing that was pointed out was that the plaintiff was denied the right to participate in the primary election, which contravenes the provision of the Electoral Act. Yes. He ordered for a valid, fresh primary election before the forthcoming governorship election. In fact, I hear that the plaintiff, Ali Amin, prayed the court to nullify the election on the ground that it was grossly flawed, given the manner that he had been sidelined with no justifiable reasons to legitimize the act. Now, if parties, like you said, that they know that this is what the Constitution says, this is what the Electoral Act says, because every party has its Constitution, its rules and its guidelines. If these parties know, and this is ditto for the APC, the PDP, the SDP, all of the people who found themselves in this hot water, why do they still go ahead and try to play this hanky-panky, knowing that if there be any loopholes, people who are aggrieved will take advantage of those loopholes and take it to court? Do
you think the PDP learned from Zamfara and Rivers?
What I mean?
Let me tell you from my understanding, because I tried to move with some politicians back then when I was still in Osun State. Let me tell you, the money-back politics remain our problem in Nigeria. And we cannot take that away from our politics. Now, I don't know, I've not researched much about the Ali Amin guy and the other Yusuf guy. But I must tell you, for Yusuf to have actually emerged in PDP primary in Kano State, I'm telling you, that guy must have a lot of money.
Well, that's still an allegation to
say. No, it's not an allegation. I've seen it played out in their primary elections, where then it's highest bidder. From the APC to the PDP to other parties, except for all these, I don't want to say small political parties. It's inducements. It's now that APC, they are trying to use direct primary because they are trying to save costs. The highest bidder takes the glory when it comes to the issue of
look where it has gotten them. The APC in River State does not have a candidate to field because it's between a Magnus Abe and a Tunye Cole, and both of them have lost. And not just both of them. Every single person who ran on the platform of that party, whether it be National Assembly, House of Assembly, Senate, nothing. If this was the case and they saw it play out, APC's incident started long ago, why did the PDP go ahead and still do this magic? I mean, same thing, Zamfara had its own problems, and just like David said, why can we not learn from our mistakes? Why do we keep making the same mistakes over and over and over again? And now they might also risk not having a candidate on election day.
So I wish every politician should reason the way you and I were reasoning. I just wish every sane politician should put the interests of their people first, above their interests. I told you, what every politician in Nigeria thinks first is their interest. Once my interest is not fulfilled, or probably some quotas within the parties, or the parties itself is going against my wish and my interest,
do you anticipate a step down by one of these gentlemen in this tussle for power?
Again, sorry?
Do you anticipate a step down that one would just say, well, you know what, I would accept Abba as the party's candidate, or vice versa?
Well, this Nigeria, anything is possible. Anything is possible between now and Thursday when their new primary is scheduled. Anything is possible. But I see PDP going to primary this Thursday. I see them going to primary. Because for that guy to have dragged this case up to yesterday, it's a fight to finish.
But what sort of message does it also send to the electorate who are expected to vote this time around too as well?
Okay, when we have a case like this, it causes what we call voting apartheid. Such that PDP, they have their members. It's so easy for the APs to actually penetrate into the what? Into the PDP and cut away a sizable number of their party members away. So now, this issue is having a direct consequence on the chance of PDP. Though the chance they were having before now is just too slim, even before the court ruling.
But I was thinking, I mean, maybe I'm just from another planet, but I was thinking, in a state where it's glaring that a governor, you know, your sitting governor was clearly involved in or embroiled in some scandal of taking monies such that it has become a hashtag. They even gave it a name, Gandola. I was thinking that the people would obviously tilt and look for other options, because you would want to rather unseat a governor who is found corrupt under an administration that claims to have zero tolerance for corruption.
Wait, before I go into that, in a sane climate, Gandola won't be the governor of Kano State as of today. Well,
he has immunity, so he can only be investigated until he gets out of office.
Do you know when a particular civil society group took the case to the courts, the guy didn't actually appear. He said he was going to send his commissioner to go and represent him at the level of the House of Assembly.
Because he has immunity.
So wait, we are talking about different personalities here. Buhari, who is preaching anti-corruption, and of course, an advocate of Of integrity. Ganduje said that video, it was cloned.
What will be the next step for INEC this time around, be it that Abba Kabir Yusuf does not emerge the candidate?
Well, INEC could just go ahead and conduct the election. I don't think there is nothing INEC can do. We are talking about a case whereby a court actually passed a ruling on that, and there is nothing absolutely INEC can do. That election is going to hold, and the winner is going to emerge come this Saturday.
Yes, talking about that, you know, INEC would now have to, if Abba Kabir Yusuf does not emerge the party's candidate as earlier presented, then it means that INEC would have to reprint all of these ballot papers.
Of course, I'm sure INEC is aware of the current trend in Kano politics as we speak. INEC, they actually, the court passed the ruling yesterday. So yesterday, today, up to like Friday, INEC should have done that. But
Thursday is the waiting date that everybody's waiting for. So do you think INEC will be able to coordinate its whole activities and ensure that the printing of all of these ballot papers are done by when the results are out?
We cannot drag a Kano election.
So then it means there's a higher possibility that we wouldn't have them fielding candidates?
Wait, PDP will field a candidate, either Alamin or Yusuf. One of them would definitely emerge.
But who's to say that whoever emerges would not, or the opposition would not say, I was cheated out, you were not supposed to win. There's another discrepancy, and then they drag. Who's to say that the drama will not continue? Who's to say? And that again might also end up being another, I'm not a prophet of doom, but might end up leaving PDP without a candidate.
Well, I will just conclude with this. Nigeria is just full of drama. As you wake up to another day, you wake up to another drama. But I'm telling you, I'm sure either Aliami or Yusuf, one of them is going to appear on the ballot paper come Saturday in Kano.
All right.
See, from nowhere, the magic will just appear. I'm telling you, we are talking about Nigeria factor. We know how to get things done when we need it the most.
Okay, so going forward,
yes,
what should political parties and politicians learn from all of the dramas and the imbroglios and the infightings that have happened in parties, even parties that were supposedly third force, you know, in nature, that were supposed to be trailblazers for the so-called, you know, APC and PDP? They were also caught up in that drama. Ditto for the SDP, Donald Duke and Jerry Ghana. What should they learn from all of these things that have happened going forward to 2023?
All right, thank you for bringing that 2023 up. As we are still talking about 2019 election, you know, these guys, they've started permutating ahead of 2023. So my advice for all the political parties will be that as much as we have all these cases, all these pending cases, all these fallouts in our primaries, we keep on reducing our chances in the general poll. We saw what happened. We saw what happened in Rivers, like you said. On Saturday, APC, they are not going to be on the governorship ballot paper election. So that reduces their what? Their chance. So going forward in 2023, all the political parties should be aware that as long as we have fallout in our primary elections, it reduces our what? Our chances.
Okay.
I'm talking about the understanding of our constitution and electoral guidelines as well. What do you say to that as well? Ensuring that they follow the rules of engagement.
Yeah. Like I said, rules are rules. But I told you, you can't take away a Nigerian from a Nigerian.
No, rules are meant to be followed. It's made for the people, not in isolation.
Have you witnessed where all these political parties conducted their primaries? I've seen like 2 or 3 cases. I've seen a case whereby a delegate will collect money from you after swearing an oath, and he or she will end up voting for her. See, they all have this guideline. They all know what the guidelines is saying or talking about. But I bet you we are talking about the money back politics. We cannot drive that away in Nigeria politics or basically African politics.
Wow. For me, it means that all hope is lost for now. Well, I hope that all hope is not lost.
Well, someday, somehow, we are going to shift away from money back politics. Thank you very much for speaking with us. Tony Folorunsho is a public affairs commentator. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for speaking with us. It's been an interesting evening. We're looking at Mr. President's cabinet appointments. We're keeping our fingers crossed, hoping that the, what's it called now? The Constitution is followed in these appointments, of course. And we're also looking at technocrats filling those spaces and not necessarily using it as a means of settlement.
Most definitely. And then we also looked at the herders farmers crisis, and hopefully the president has a full hand to deal with all of these issues. And this is where we draw the curtain on tonight's conversation. Thanks for watching. I'm David Alabi.
And I'm Mariana Cohn. See you tomorrow.